Hello YouTube! So I've been rocking the 128 gig early 2015 model of the 13-inch Retina Macbook Pro, and today we're going to change the thermal paste on the CPU and upgrade the internal storage to an NVMe drive. Here are the baseline I/O speeds of the internal SSD. Disconnect the cable and shut down your Mac. Let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes while you gather the required tools. Place it on a soft towel to prevent any scratches on the top. Using a Pentalobe P5 screwdriver, let's open the chassis. Keep track of the screws, because the top two screws are shorter than the others. Let's disconnect the battery first. You don't want to fry the electronics. Remove the tape to expose the underlying battery connector. While we're at it, let's clean any dirt and debris. Remove any small debris around the heatsink. The heatsink has these sticky rubber tops on the screws. Pull them off with either a forceps or fingers like I'm doing here. Remember to save them because we need them later on. Gently pull out the rubber gasket that's wrapped around the heatsink. Set it aside because it's important to place it back. There's one corner screw and four in the middle holding the heatsink together. Let's unscrew these using a Torx T5 screwdriver. Needless to say, keep track of the screws. Pry the heatsink from the CPU with the help of a spludger. Whoa! There's a lot of dried up thermal paste in here, and the bottom die wasn't even covered properly. So let's clean it all up. I lost some footage of cleaning, but I used Q-tips and cleaned the CPU die and the heatsink thoroughly. Remember to check that there are no remaining fibers in the CPU or the heatsink before applying new thermal paste. I dipped the Q-tip in some rubbing alcohol to remove some of the stubborn patches. I chose the Noctua NH1. You can go with the likes of Arctic MX4 as well. Draw a line on the CPU dies, and notice how reflective the surface is. Make sure to clean yours thoroughly so that it looks like that. Here actually I ended up putting more than required. Let's place the heatsink back in place and fasten it. I'm going to fasten the diagonal screws first as pairs. There was some spill. I decided to clean it up first. Even though the thermal paste is electronically non-conductive, but I still decided to clean it out. And then there's the corner screw that we have to fasten. We'll quickly check that all the heatsink screws are tight. Place the rubber gasket back in place. It has notches in the fan cover where the gasket is supposed to fit in, so it should be pretty easy to do, but just make sure not to break anything away. So if you Google upgrading MacBook Pro SSD to NVMe and head on over to MacRumors forums, there is an excellent thread that covers info that's applicable to a wide range of MacBook Air and Pro models that can accept M.2 NVMe drives. Make sure to check it out because there's a lot of information out there that I cannot be covering in this short video. Like it talks about which COM stick adapters to buy and the hibernation issue on the older Macs, but the part that I think you'll be most interested in are these tables. Take a good look at these tables. There's a lot of info about SSD's power consumption, its efficiency, the cost to performance ratio. Select the one that you feel works for your needs, keeping in mind that other than the mid-2015 15-inch model, all previous laptops can only support 4 lanes of PCIe 2.0, so I knew my motherboard will be the bottleneck and not the NVMe drive that I choose to install in my MacBook. In the end, I decided to go for the ADATA SX8200 PRO, 512 gigabytes of storage, since the SX8200 was known to work with Apple's motherboard, and it has a good thermal profile in addition to respectable I/O speeds. So the recommended adapter is a relatively inexpensive one from Sintech, as you can see on their webpage here. Sintech has its official store on Amazon as well, so you can order directly from Sintech or from Amazon, it's your choice. But regardless of that, the adapter will ship from China. This is how the adapter should look like. The adapter can take drives with an M key here. Here's the Apple's proprietary 12 plus 16 pin connector, which goes into the PCIe slot on your MacBook's motherboard. It took around 10 days for me to receive the adapter from Sintech. I had almost made up my mind about the SX8200 Pro, but I headed on over to User Benchmark, which is a website listing user-reported benchmark scores of various drives. I looked up the ADATA SX8200. Bear in mind that there are two versions of the SX8200, one with 480 gigs of storage, and then the one that I purchased, the SX8200 Pro, with 512 gigs of storage. Then I compared it to some of the other drives that I was interested in, like the Samsung 960 EVO, and the ADATA drive was almost half the price of the Samsung. It had better performance than the Samsung, probably because it's a newer release, but yeah, the better I/O speeds and the cheaper price made it an easy decision for me. It would be a wine and not a movie if this was Sophie's choice. So here's how the adapter looks like up close, and it comes in this anti-static cover with a screw. So here's the ADATA SX8200 Pro. It's supposed to be pretty fast. It came in this very flimsy packaging, like it didn't really even have a cover, had exposed PCB components just in the box. And here you can see that it has the M key. With the Torx T5 screwdriver, let's unscrew the internal SSD. Gently wiggle it out of its slot on the motherboard, and here is my stock Samsung SSD drive. For now, I'll stow it away for a rainy day in case the adapter or the SSD that I'm installing fails on me. Plug in the adapter on the motherboard and then the SSD. The SSD should click in like when it's installed properly, so make sure to do that correctly. And let's just reconnect the battery. Remember to place the rubber pads back on the screws of the heatsink and screw the back on with the pentalobe P5 screws. Before you do this, make sure to back up your data on a time machine and make a bootable installer of Mac OS Mojave. The instructions from Apple are linked down below in the description. Plug in the USB installer of the Mac OS Mojave and the charger to your Mac. Hold the Option key and the power button of the computer. It should boot up, and it's asking for my firmware password at the moment, but we should boot into the installer right away. Using the disk utility, we can check that the system recognizes our new drive, but because it's uninitialized, it's useless to us. Let's format it to APFS with the GUID partition table, and then it should mount. The drive's now ready. You can either install a fresh copy of Mac OS Mojave, or you can restore from your time machine backup, which is what I'm choosing to do here. So see you on the other side. So if you fire up system information on your MacBook, now you should see the new drive listed under NVMe Express. We can see that the SX8200 PRO is working on 4 PCIe Express lanes with full trim support. Here's the system information again to show that there is no funny business going on here. Let's talk about the performance. The NVMe drive gave the much needed boost in the write speeds. The read speeds also improved quite a fair bit. Here are the thermals, pretty comparable, but we have to keep in mind that the NVMe drive draws more power to itself as well as to the CPU. Your thermals should improve after Spotlight finishes indexing the drive. Thanks for watching, and suggest some cool apps that I can try on with my added storage over here. So far, because I've lived with a very minimalistic setup on my laptop.